You are live. Well,
don't drink and drive.
We ain't driving anyway, babes.
Oh, well, we're right then, aren't we?
Good evening to all the peoples. We have progressed from our usual cup of tea, this generous glass of wine. I may have stolen Jared's.
Lockdown!
It's a drinking kind of night, peoples. So we have the lovely Lindawoodhead with us tonight. We're just waiting for her to... Oh, there she is. Come on
Straight
in,
on.
babes.
Straight
Come on
on.
in.
Not messing about.
I love when people are efficient. Maria Unali. Hello, Missy Moo Moo.
Hello, Maria.
Oh, there. I can't reach, babe. Can
I
you do
got it. Look
I'm
at
gonna
me.
knock me wine over. Oh. Cheers. Cheers to you, babes. That was to Maria.
All right. Fair enough.
Hello.
Hello.
How are you, miss?
I'm very well. How are you guys doing down there?
We are surviving, babes. We are surviving. I've got my Kinder Surprise earrings on because I told Jared I feel like a Kinder Surprise in lockdown. You just don't know if it's going to be a good toy or a bad toy today.
I love Kinder Surprise. I buy them for the kids all the time, but you have to make the little things inside, hey? And then you just have little things sitting around your home everywhere because there was nothing you could do with them after.
Babe, we're showing our age talking about Kinder Surprise.
They're still around.
I know, but they're definitely interesting.
Oh, I think you can get them in a box now.
Oh, hello,
Yeah.
Madeline, joining again. Bless you. How are you, miss? Are you good?
Yeah, I'm good. We're fine up here. I think I keep getting people asking me how we're doing because I think some people think we're based in Sydney or Melbourne for some reason, which we've never been. Find it really quite hard to then go, yeah, we're fine. That really difficult time of sort of knowing the right thing to say and what to say, and it's frustrating, I think, when you hear people sort of say that you understand, because we don't up here at all. Like we've been quite, we're lucky the fact that life is still pretty normal. We can't go anywhere and no one can come to see us. So we're locked, but so different stresses, I think, for different people. But generally we're okay. I'm lucky with the business, I guess, because that can still continue kind of whatever happens or wherever you are. So we're doing all right. Lucky.
You're juggling a little bit with the event side, but yeah, that's all right.
Yeah, that's struggle, I guess. I mean, we did it last year, so I think we had good practice. We take our time with decisions on what we try to do, so to try and make sure that it's right for everyone, because we have so many different stakeholders with sponsors and with attendees and obviously finalists and winners, and lots of stuff has to go into making that decision. And ultimately we know that everybody wants it. So I mean, we were so lucky with the creative ones in June. We just just snuck in between, I think, out and Sydney going in. It was like that one weekend.
Meant to be.
Yeah.
The gods were looking after us on that one, that's for sure.
Babes, I have a few questions for you to start.
Okay.
One, you're English, my favourite type of people. But your accent is quite soft, babes.
Well, I'm from the southern part of England, and I have actually lived here longer. I came over here in my early 20s, and I'm now, I'm now in my late
23.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
I've for a lot longer than I was there. But I guess, when I FaceTime my family, or when I go back there, which has been a while now because I've missed the last couple of years, but I literally within seconds I'm straight back to sounding like them. All my family are in the southern part of England. I was born in Bristol, and then I lived in Bath for a while, and then I moved to London for about 5 years before I emigrated out here. So I think having that southern, I'm sorry, I don't know if you can hear my dogs barking outside. I can hear.
It's all right. Laurie's just saying that you're the kindest, most genuine human she's ever met.
Oh, She is too, and she's a fellow Pommy.
Yes, indeed, she is.
Bloody
Yeah.
moms.
Have really strong. I think we get in the past people get southern and northern really mixed up. So the northerners have got really strong accents. If you're from Liverpool, Manchester, Nottingham, you know, whereas my family, we all sound like farmers. We're sort of, you know, that a lot of people thought I was Canadian when I first emigrated because I think there's
Really?
similarities. But when I speak to my family, they say I sound Australian, and when I speak here, they say there's still bits of it.
Yeah.
And still definitely words that I use that are English that don't mean the same thing here. And my kids,
tell us the best ones.
we have a running thing with everybody here, and my kids are, even though they were all born here, in the way that you pronounce the word. Well, I say garage. You say garage. We say garage. And all my
I love this game.
and
Hoover vacuum. That's one.
yeah, those kind of things. I mean, when there were lots of words there's lots of fruits and vegetables that mean different things over here. That was a bit to kind of learn.
Yeah, you guys don't say capsicum. They say
bell peppers.
Red peppers, green.
Oh, how do you know that?
That's American.
That's impressive.
And we have zucchini and we have courgettes. And the whole situation is really complicated because your shallots are our spring onions, but your spring onions, I don't even know what they are because I don't think we have them because they're not that big.
Pretty similar things.
So that stuff I probably stick to, but yeah, I consider myself Australian. I'm a citizen. I've got citizenship. If England are playing Australia, then I'll go for Australia. If England are playing
controversial.
Yeah. But I mean, I've got, you know, twin sons that are mad on sport, so I had to kind of pick a side.
I'm Australian and I go for the English, so there we go.
Yeah,
Wow. Okay.
nothing logical about you.
Now I just want to quickly go through, just for people, I mean, I don't think you need an introduction, babe, but just for people who don't know so much. So you got into publishing when you were 20 in the UK, I believe.
Yeah.
Which I read, and tell me if any of this is not true, because obviously I'm just Googling all the things.
Fun fact before you go, if you Google your name, there's a British lady who is a scholar on religious, religious studies or something like that.
Fun thing to Google your name and see what comes up. It's usually nothing that you expect. Yeah, I've seen that one before.
Yeah. I was like,
way.
You should just say you're a scholar. I would definitely roll with that.
Religious studies, I'm not sure, but anyway.
And then basically, can I ask, you immigrated to Australia in 1986. How old were you then?
23.
So you were at the publishing for 3 years. What made you decide to move to Australia?
My husband then worked for an Australian company in England, and we had been over here on holiday. The company that I worked for, some of the magazines that I was working on, we had a big takeover. It was a huge part. I worked for Reed Publishing, but our division was taken over by someone. So I'd taken voluntary redundancy, even though I'd only been there for about 3 or 4 years. Kind of working on, so we were sort of both at a position of not entrenched in anything. We came to Australia on holiday, absolutely fell in love with it, and then went back.
Always do.
Get it kind of sorted. So we ended up coming in on a business migration and bought into his boss's business, and fluked it because it was still quite difficult to get in, and took us about 12 months, I think, to finally kind of do it. And then, and then kind of came and settled, and that was it.
Was the reason for going to Brisbane because his work was in Brisbane?
Yeah, and also because people knew we knew a few people here, so I guess it was we hadn't sort of decided to settle here as such, but we knew people here, and we'd been here before and loved it, loved Brisbane, loved the coast. We ended up, we were in Brisbane first, and stayed there until I moved down to the coast, which was probably about, I don't know, maybe 8 or 9 years ago. But yeah, that was mainly, which was a silly decision really for me, because publishing, it was not really Brisbane. I mean, the publishing hub in Australia is Sydney and sort of Melbourne, but mainly Sydney. So I didn't have a choice with what was available for work, and just kind of took what I could get, to be honest, when I first came out here. So and did sort of other bits and pieces as well. I just, before I started work, I used to do the flea markets for a while. I used to go buy stuff from the garage sales and sell it at flea markets, and which is all different sort of things. And then I wanted to get, back into career, and that was all my history. So managed to land a job in a local newspaper, weekly music newspaper in Brisbane, and then kind of carried on from there.
Yeah.
Favorite band, go, of all time?
Oh my God, of all time? It's such a difficult one. I
Deflection.
a bit of an R&B girl, but I also love really alternative, I guess, and Powderfinger, probably.
Oh, good choice.
Solid, very solid. Very solid.
I wouldn't have picked either of those for you, babe.
No, probably because after I'd worked with the street press paper for a while, in Australia, 88, the stock crash happened, and the guy that owned the newspaper also had just bought into gold and copper and weird stuff, and so everything just kind of toppled when the stock market crash hit. So within a week he was in receivership, and I stayed on for a while working for the receivers, and then after they sold it, and I didn't really particularly like the people that bought it, they started to reduce print runs and all those sorts of things. And so a lot of the team that I had, who had traveled and been all over the place, were all kind of coming back. So we sort of got the band back together. And that was my first one that I launched. So I launched Rave in 1991. And the reason I say Powderfinger is because it was around the same time that they started. So and they were from Brisbane, obviously. So they used to.
Okay, I didn't know that. There you
go. Boys. So they used to come into the office with their little $80 to put their little ad in for their live gigs and stuff. And it was just a really cool time for music. Everything was very live. It was just before there was a festival in Brisbane called Livid, and then the guy that ran that, he went into business with Ken West and Vivian Lees, who then started Day Out. So we sponsored the first few big day outs, and it was just went through a very kind of strange time with music, because it was all, it was vinyl when we first started going, and then vinyl became CD, and then there was a big uproar over that because everyone was copying everything, and live music was still happening, and then festivals were happening, and then things were to get more into DJ stuff. So music is my passion. I love, I come from a family, and so that was just kind of, and it was good because Rave at the time had we did all the music stuff, so I dealt with all the record labels and stuff, but we also did theatre and film, and so anything to do with the arts. I think Kelly, my daughter, her first festival was when she was 3. She was which is probably explained a lot as she got older, but yeah, that was kind of...
What was she? What was her character?
Her character? What do you mean?
What did she do?
Well, she was 3, babe.
She came with me to Livid, and she was backstage.
What did she do? She was a baby.
I thought you said she did her first show. Like she performed her first show. I was like, wow. Was she a branch, or was she like, a piece of grass, or?
Jared needs to clean his ears, babe. Now, being English and a lover of music and festivals, were you a bit of a rave girl back in your day?
For live music, yes.
Hesitation.
Yeah, up. I mean, it was a different era then, I guess. But look, live music, concerts, all that, I love and still do. I've just booked a few things for next year because things are starting to come back again. So yeah, and it was funny because when we first launched Rave, we came up with the name before the word rave became a thing, which meant something completely different. It didn't pigeonhole us, which was good. And we weren't really dealing, I guess, with the more consumer mainstream stuff. It was mainly all the alternative stuff and the guys that were kind of running small clubs in pubs. And yeah, it was just a cool time. Like the record companies, they would do sort of junkets if they were launching a new album or something, and it would just be something cool. Like I remember Sinead O'Connor came over and they just hired this basement and she just sat there and there was just us, like few newspaper magazine people, and she was just playing acoustic for 2 hours, and just it was amazing. We just we'd all get on buses, and Festival Hall was still open then in Brisbane, which was a long time ago. And I remember EMI once put us all on buses and sent us down to Dreamworld. There was a band called Do Re Mi, and they just brought out a new album. And the old thing at the back of Dreamworld, where they used to have these animals, like stuffed animals that would sing kind of stuff, that was singing while they were doing stuff backstage. Like it was crazy time.
Did you just say they were called Do Re Mi, as in like The Sound of Music?
Yes, that was their band.
Please tell me they sung that song.
The singer was Deborah Conway. She went on to do like a lot of stuff singularly as well. But so yeah, for music, it's hard for me to pinpoint because I love anything. Heavy metal stuff probably not, but anything else from classical to jazz to R&B to everything.
Then the crossover from music into hair and beauty world.
When I had Rave, I knew a lady who was a hairdresser, and she had been back to the UK. And when she came back to Australia, I only knew her because our husbands used to work together in the UK, so we got to know each other. And she decided that she wanted to launch a newspaper over here for the hair industry. There was only one at the time. InStyle was the only one that was around back then, so that's what that one's been going forever. So she wanted to launch it. She knew the hair industry, but she didn't know how to publish, and I already had my publishing business. So she came to me and said, look, can you do it? So we published on her behalf. So we sort of did all the compilation, the artwork, all the design, the printing, all that kind of stuff, and did that for about a year or two. And that was back then the launch of what was then called the AHA, which was the Australian Hairdressers Journal. And we ran that sort of on a license basis, I guess, for a year or two, until it got to the point where it got too big, I guess. And then we sort of sat down and I said, look, you need to employ your own people, do your own thing. And I'd taken on some other publications as well. So then we sort of parted the ways. But because of that, I guess it was an early sort of introduction to the industry. At the same time, within the first couple of years, she launched the AHFAs, which is quite weird now because of everything that I do. So I was sort of involved in that for a period of time. And so that kind of went full circle, because then after I sold Rave, had the kids, and also owned a couple of business magazines, a spiritual new age magazine, I found myself just needing a bit of a break, and did. And then when I did, she asked me to go in and sort of help out. By then she'd been around for quite a while. And so that was an interesting time, because that was just, I think, sometimes when you have a business and you're in it, you don't always, sometimes you need to step back and look at it, or need somebody else even to do that. I did. So I went in kind of on a general manager role, I guess, on a consultancy basis for about 4 years, 3 or 4 years. It was only supposed to be a short period of time, but it lasted a lot longer. And so, so I got to know, I guess, a lot of people in the industry, learned obviously all about awards and the, everything that we used to do with the fellowship in the UK and all that sort of stuff. So, that was kind of how I got into it. And then when we parted company, I took a bit of a break for a while, but I had felt for a long time that within the hair industry especially, nobody was really looking at the business side of things. Everyone was kind of, and I love the creative side. I absolutely love it. But, and you've got to feed both. But nobody was really looking at business. And it used to astound me as to how many magazines used to come back, which was because of closures of salons. And so I thought, I had this beautiful stable of these incredible business writers from my business magazines that I had. And I thought, what if I can put the two together and not necessarily compete with what was there at that stage, and start the business stuff. So that's what we did. So when we first started with Hair Biz, which was our first one, it was all business. It was small. It was, I've got every single copy we've ever produced in like 15, 16 years. And when I look at the old ones, which are just horrendous, comes to design and stuff, because we just were new and it was little and we only really put out the size that we could afford to, and it was tough getting business service providers to advertise. We didn't even go for the hair kind of dollar. That came about because then a lot of the hair companies realized that people were reading this one, and it kind of went from there. And then I had always known I wanted to do something monthly. I felt that the market only would sustain a bi-monthly magazine. Originally, we tried to do lots of biz magazines. So we did Hair Biz, and then we did Pharmacy Biz, and then we did Pet Biz. Pharmacy didn't work.
How many hours do you have in a day, woman?
I know, but it was just, we even looked at Sex Biz at one point, but we didn't do that.
Why not? That would have done well for sure.
The pet one was good because the pet industry is very similar to the hair industry. It's, you've got your general supermarket brands, and then you've got your kind of professional brands that are sold in vets and hospitals and stuff. And but it's very much driven by wholesalers, and they don't necessarily do. They don't support the industry the way that ours do. So in the end, we had also launched Beauty Biz kind of in that middle. And then kind of went back and went, you know what, let's just be what we think we are and what we know, which is a hair and beauty company. Barbershop came after that. Barbershop came 10 years ago, so that's been going for a lot longer than a lot of people think. And then all the awards kind of come. So the way we describe ourselves now, I guess, is a hair and beauty company with awards, competitions, events, magazines, media, digital, all of that, but all under that beauty. We're a small team. I need probably 10 times more people, but we just carry on and we do okay.
That's what's nice about it, because I think it is, you can feel that intimate touch, like the care factor. I think you lose that when things become too big and, I want to say corporized, but I don't think that's a word.
It's not at all.
Okay, cool.
But I know. I think having my first job in a big corporate company, a big media company, I was working on magazines that went to the Middle East and Far East. They were health magazines, still business to business. And literally one day, the new owners came in, and somebody we didn't know just walked into the offices, and they were massive, and just said, there was a big meeting, and they said, any magazine that isn't making a 20% profit contribution will close next week. And it was just cut. And so, I think with this, this is my, and everyone that works with me, this is our blood, sweat and tears. It's not just a profit loss at the bottom. That also makes it good, because then from an expense point of view, you can keep things down, and look at everything, so I think it's I think you do need that height, especially now, more than anything. And you need that. So the role of everybody has changed. I've certainly brought more people in than what I did originally, so that I can spend more time on those relationships and being on the coalface a little bit. Some people say I shouldn't do that as much, and I shouldn't be, but you sort of can't not be, I don't think. I think to be successful, you have to have.
Pete's saying you're the kindest person, Linda. Lots of fans, babe. Lots of fans.
Also, one of the, so when I was back on my AHJ days and I used to look after Fame Team, he was on the Fame Team then. We went to London together. I remember we ran a competition on this. We had a stand at Salon International, and they were on stage doing stuff, and we were running a competition for some tickets. I think it was like two tickets to come to Australia, and we had little deck chairs, like a little thing set up. So Pete would quite often come off stage and just sit on the deck chair.
Okay, we've got to move on.
I know. I had so many other things to say, babes, but an hour is just not long enough.
No.
Okay.
Stuff that we've been talking about, everyone kind of knows. So we'll just, go to some other stuff.
I am going to try and come back. And yellow game. Do you have your yellow object, my love? Don't show us.
Yes, I do.
All right, I've got
Jared's going to put his timer on. Now, you can't say what it is, but you have to describe it without saying what it is.
People at home, you've got to guess as well. Right?
Okay.
Based on last week, they're going to win it.
Yeah.
I apologise, but I'm reading it from my little notes so that I know.
Don't
Okay.
be silly.
Oh, you wrote notes on what it is? Okay, this is good.
I'm going to win this. I can feel it.
All right. At home,
Join in.
join in.
All right.
Ready, set,
Okay.
go.
In Greek mythology, this thing symbolises loyalty. In Chinese culture, it represents long life, vitality, and good luck. Native Americans see it as meaning good harvest and provision.
Dream catcher.
Nope. It generally stands 30 to 50 centimetres tall, but the largest one on record stands at almost 10 metres.
A plant.
Face
Corn.
it.
Laurie said corn.
No. Part of it is packed full of calcium.
Cheese.
Part of it can be used in cooking.
Ooh. Custard.
No.
Sunshine.
To me, it represents positivity and joy, and it loves the sun.
Butter.
Sun. 8 seconds.
Is it a food? No. Is it?
1
No.
second.
That was very difficult.
That was good.
Oh,
sunflower.
Laurie said sunflower, but she didn't put the N in, so I feel like she didn't technically get that right.
Laurie said banana.
No, sunflower. She got it. She got it.
She got it. Well done, Creasy. 10 points to you, buddy.
I love sunflowers.
I
Really?
did, in my typical journalistic fashion, I did look up some.
Well done. Well done.
That was a very clever way of like throwing in some historical facts.
Yeah, that was
Just
good.
really threw us off our A game.
I like it. Well done.
Excellent.
I
Amazing.
had no idea what was going on.
I think I'm winning 1-0. Just
What did
so
you
you
win?
know. I won the first week, babes. Just so you know.
You got the duck last week with Sharon, and I was going to do duck because I've got them from my grandson, but I thought, I can't do it. He's done.
You probably should have, because he still didn't get it right. So it was great. All right, babes. Let us jump into the juicy stuff. Can we start? We'll start light. Can you describe yourself in 5 words?
Yes. This is a tough one because it's what you think of yourself as opposed to other people, and I'm not good at doing that. But anyway, I'll give it a go. Happy. I'm a pretty happy person. Passionate for things that mean a lot to me. I'm super, super passionate to the point of obsessive, I guess. I've also put in there grateful. I'm grateful for so much. And whenever if I do have a bit of a wobble or a down day, if I just think of a few things that I'm grateful for, then that lifts you back up again. I've put in proud as well. I think it's important to, be proud of yourself as well as other people around you. So I'm pretty proud of what I've achieved in the time that I've had, I guess. And then I also put silly because I was going to put funny because I think I'm funny, but not everybody does.
Laurie's just added that you are committed, correct
kind of person.
so many words.
So yeah, silly. I'm happy with the silly side.
Can I just quickly ask what your star sign is?
I'm a Leo.
Ooh, you're like my
Lovely
perfect
Leo.
match. Just
Oh,
saying.
excellent.
Aquarius.
I was going to choose you as my yellow. which is very clever. But I thought, no, I couldn't hold you up.
Actually, I only just dyed it today. It was definitely not yellow about 2 hours ago. I love that. That was very like a nice combination of humble, gracious, kind, light-hearted, passionate. There was a lot in that, babe. Well done.
I'll add a 6th one. I'll put in beloved by people.
Oh, that's really nice.
Yeah.
But I think it's very hard to say proud and like to be so humble, and I think that's what you do so amazingly. Like there's no arrogance there. It's just pure like from a gracious place.
Yeah.
Well, I'm grateful because I couldn't be proud if I wasn't grateful, because I know that I haven't got here on my own. It's been a lot of people, and you know, I will accept what I've done and you know, and have that self-worth. But I think, yeah, when you have self-worth, you still have to have a little bit of humility. Yeah.
Oh, I can tell we've got a great candidate for vulnerability chats today. Can you please, I was actually very excited that you liked this question, Linda, a sliding door moment.
Yeah, I looked at all the different sort of questions that I could answer for you, and sliding door for me was after I'd sold Rave, a guy that I knew who was actually part of the business with time off before, who also became an owner of a newspaper in Queensland called Business Queensland. He had also left and set up a publishing company and had about 10 to 15 magazines, probably the biggest one in Queensland, just different consumer ones, camping, all different kind of things. But he was one of those people that used to surround himself with thousands when he probably only needed 10. And the business was struggling. And he knew that I'd kind of just taken some time out. And so he said, same, I guess, as the other one had, to come in and have a look and look at what you were doing. Can I just, you know, employ you for 3 months just to sort of look over it? And when I got there, I think it was just a little bit, it was too little too late. It was already going down. It was, you know, in the red, too many people. We got rid of a lot of people. I came in like a hatchet person, which is not what I love to do, but it was like sink or swim. And so all of that kind of culminated in, I think it was about a week before I was due to leave, and the only way out was for him to sell. So we put everything together to put it up for sale, and we were visited by 3, I mean, I was still quite young then. I was, you know, late 20s, early 30s. So early 30s, actually. So these 3 older gentlemen, grey hair suits, arrived.
Very diplomatic.
And they looked at buying it. So because I'd sort of done all that, I was the main one that dealt with them. And then about a week later, I got a call from them. I'd finished up with the company, and they asked me if I would come down to Sydney. And I thought it was going to be more to do with the stuff that my friend had, or this man that I knew. They flew me down to Sydney. I got down there, walked into this gigantic sort of 20-story building of, I don't know how many magazines. And they offered me a general manager's position, and I was early 30s. And it was massive, which I wasn't expecting. Flattered, obviously, and a little bit scared. So the sliding door moment for me was they offered to, I was divorced by then, so my kids were still quite young. I've been sort of a single mum with them since they were, Kelly was 6 and the twins were 3. So my job had always been quite handy, if you like. I mean, money, you know, we all like nice things, but it allowed me to have a lot of flexibility as a single parent. So if there was, you know, sports day, I'd go to that, and then I'd work till midnight on magazines and stuff. So I remember getting on the plane after this ridiculous offer, financially, a ridiculous offer where they would, you know, they said that they would relocate me, they would pay for a nanny, but I kind of remember getting on the plane thinking, you don't get that kind of job without giving your pound of flesh. And and I didn't have that to give, and I just felt that, you know, I didn't have the kids to not have them. I thought, you know, had I had a partner, maybe it would have been different, because between us we probably could have done it, but because it was just me and all my family were also in England, I remember I got on the plane and thought about it on that hour and 10 minutes flight, and by the time I got off, I was, no, I don't want to do that. And I spoke to a few friends, and a few people said, you're mad, just do it, it'll set, you know, do it for 5 years, it'll set you up. And I was just, yeah, but it's not always about the almighty dollar. It's, you know, I want it to be about life and balance. So I do often think of that. So definitely as a sliding doors moment, that's my one, because if I'd have gone that way, life would have been completely different. Totally.
Your kids are young, so yeah, that's a hard decision to make.
Yeah, because you want to provide for them in the best way you can. I mean, I was sort of, I'd come from a family where, you know, my mum was a school teacher, my dad was an accountant. You know, when I started my own business, they were like, entrepreneurialism was not something that was in their sort of vocabulary, although I know that they were proud, but it was like, you know, when you're going to get a real job kind of.
We all know that feeling.
So that was all there, but yeah, no, that was definitely my sliding door moment. I chose that door. And absolutely happy I did.
Oh, good.
Okay, let me move on. If you could live out a scene from a film, what would it be? Also a great question. You picked amazing questions.
I love this question, and I think you'll like this one, Shireen.
Amazing. Is it Disney?
Yes.
Oh, so good. Oh, is it?
Cinderella.
Poppins.
Which one?
It's Mary Poppins.
Love it.
It's the scene of the song was It's a Jolly Holiday, and it's the scene when they're walking along the street and they jump into the chalk painting.
Yes, I know it.
Suddenly it becomes I'm not that old, so but I mean, it was ahead of time apparently back then, where it was that mixture of animation and real film.
Yeah.
But as a kid watching it, like little, and I used to try and dress up as Mary Poppins, and I used to but I just think, as far as absolute sheer total joy and fantasy and color, and I would do that in a heartbeat.
I might steal that answer from you.
I might need to watch it now.
I, just on a side note,
Tell us your one.
Not important, but Julie Andrews, if I could be anyone in history.
Yeah, I love her. I love her.
Yeah. What did you think quickly of the new version of the Mary Poppins compared to the old?
Look, whenever they bring out new ones, I watch them, and I watch them differently, as if they're a completely different thing. I mean, I'm a real fan and love all the old Disneys, even the cartoons, and you know, and I get that they might not appeal to everyone now, especially children now, because they're not so technologically advanced, but there's still something really pure and beautiful. And I think I was in that era of not even so much the cartoon, but more, you know, Sound of Music, Mary Poppins, Chitty Chitty Bang Bang, all those kind of things. Okay. And
I've not watched Chitty Bang Bang.
Really?
Never.
Really?
No. Do I need to watch this?
Of course you do.
Yeah. Look, nasty person in it called the Child Catcher, who still gives me nightmares. Yeah. And Pippi Longstocking. Have you ever watched that?
I remember her. I remember Book Week at school going as Pippi Longstockings with wire in my hair. Oh, babe, you're bringing back all the memories. Good answer. I'm stealing that. That's a good one. Yeah. This is, do you know, I'm going to skip this one because I know time is always against us.
Yeah.
What traits did you get from your mum and dad?
So my mum was 4'11", my dad's 6 foot. My mum was very bubbly. Like I said, she was a school teacher. She passed away when she was my age now. She passed away from Alzheimer's, but it was an early onset. So not something that you hear about very often, but something that is very, very common. And so she's always kind of a bit scatty and a bit, you know, just cute and bubbly and lovely, and love to dance and love music. I got my music from her. She used to play piano, and I do too. And so I think from her, it was about not really taking life too seriously. From my dad was the accountant, so my dad was kind of, you know, the opposite to that. And not that taking seriously was a bad thing, but I think he's one of the kindest people I know. He's very respectful. I don't think I've ever heard him swear, like, and I would
Really?
like, he's very, you know, but he's giving and kind and lovely, and you know, looking after and taking care of his family is a really big thing. And then, I mean, when my mum passed away, my dad a few years later met another lady who had lost her husband to Alzheimer's as well. So they met through the Alzheimer's Disease Society, and together now, because my dad's in his like late 80s. They've been together now for nearly 30 years. So he always thinks of himself as, even though it was really hard with mum, he always thinks of himself as one of the luckiest people alive, because he's had two loves of his life. And you know, I remember when they got married, they both still made mention of their partners, because they absolutely loved and adored their partners. So he was very, mum and dad growing up. The one thing they definitely taught me, and hopefully I've instilled that in my kids as well, is just that love of family, but also of each other. I mean, I always thought they were quite normal, but then when my friends from school, when I was in high school, used to come around, they thought they were weird, because they used to hold hands and they would kiss and cuddle, and they'd be really affectionate openly. And you know, dad adored mum just as he now adores my stepmom, my beautiful Eileen. And so yeah, I think just the you know, and the other thing as well, that which is kind of weird, is, and I'll use the word boundaries, because they you know, they love their life and they're very good parents and grandparents, but they also need their life as well. So they traveled quite a lot. They, you know, they used to come over here on holiday. They would stay in an apartment on the Gold Coast. They wouldn't always stay with us, so they could do their thing, we could do ours. And I think that's a good thing, you know, because then we'd all of each other. So yeah, I guess that, you know, dad was always quite driven in his profession and his job. He was the head cost accountant for WD&HO Wills, which was a tobacco company back then. Mum being the teacher, to just caring, nurturing. Yeah, I think they instilled that in me. I mean, I'm probably, you know, my sister, I've got one sister. I'm quite different to, I guess, everybody, because I haven't done anything really by the book. So, but no, there's always that sort of just morality and respect, and a lot of love in the family.
I feel like that all makes a whole lot of sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good. Excellent.
Okay, we've got 15.
Oh, yep. Which means we can fit that one in.
All right, go for it.
All right. I think this is a really, really great one coming from you. What are the top shelf ingredients for success, in your opinion?
I think there's different kinds of success, and I think we often get caught up in, when somebody first says to you about success, you automatically think business. I think our brain just goes straight to that, whereas I think to be successful excuse me, in business or work or anything, is that you kind of have to be successful in everything. Otherwise you're not necessarily being your own authentic self. So a couple of things. Success for me in terms of business, and where I've found, you know, and hopefully maybe people that are watching may get something out of, I've always made sure that I can, not necessarily expertly, but I can at least do what I ask other people to do. So if I have somebody writing, I want to know that I can write. If I have somebody designing, I want to know that I can design. I don't feel that you can manage somebody unless you know what they're doing, because if you then say, well, you should be doing it quicker, how do you know? I think that's an important,
like my husband.
I
exactly
think
what I think.
I think that there's certainly the normal things, you know, being kind, being respectful. I was taught many years ago on my very first job when I left school, which was selling encyclopedias door to door. Nobody would even know.
Amazing, yeah.
Okay. I was trained, and my boss was like, the way that we were trained was that we wanted to do well for him and not just necessarily us. So I think, you know, there's that fine line between friendship and employer-employee.
Yeah.
I think that you need somebody on your team. I think people need to want to have that same goal. And so that means, you know, including them. I talk to people a lot when they're entering our awards, especially the business awards, that, you know, team awards, for example, even customer care and those kind of things, you should get everybody involved, because then they have an investment in it and they feel part of it. So success to me is not just about me being personally successful, but it's about the team around you, because if you put more in them, then you can kind of ride on that. I know that the buck stops with me and I've got to pay the bills and all that kind of stuff, but yeah, I think definitely sometimes just going with your gut. I think sometimes we overthink things, especially nowadays. We live in our heads a lot, and sometimes we just, you know, I know that I've been guilty of having a challenge and knowing what to do, but then talking myself out of it and spending weeks trying to decide what to do, and then eventually you get back to the same thing. So sometimes your gut feeling is just the right thing, and I think, you know, you have to trust yourself, trust that you can make the right decisions of who you surround yourself with. Only surround yourself with people that have a positive influence in your life, and if you have people with a negative influence in your life, they don't need to be in your life. Maybe I've learned over the years as well to not so much put myself in a bubble, but not to be affected by everything that's around me, because I can't fix everything. I can only do what I can do. So I think success to me is, you know, from a business point of view, financial, obviously, but also success in my emotional well-being and everybody that's around me. That's what it is.
It's awesome.
I actually really loved, I was reading something you said in one of your interviews, and I wrote it down actually, and it was kind of on that same note of surround yourself with positive influences. And you kind of compared choosing the people in your life or your mentors as like a husband or wife, and the importance of that relationship. And I just thought that was such a nice analogy, because it's so easy to just be like, oh, I want this person to be my mentor or my inspiration, but not actually kind of go past the obsessive part of that thought to the influence of them in your life as a person.
Minor mentor.
Yes, darling. Okay, so we like to, and I feel like we've kind of, I'm just going to deflect like wanting compliments right, which is my life. And I feel like every time we do this, I have a fart story to tell, but I'm going to just keep talking.
All right.
I feel like you just answered what success is. So we'll conclude with these two. Vulnerability is and happiness is.
Vulnerability to me is about being authentic. I don't think you can be vulnerable without being authentic. I think that you know, to be vulnerable means putting yourself out there completely and being open to everything. That also means that before you can do that, you need to be okay with yourself. I don't think people can be or experience the wonder of vulnerability until you don't really, not that you don't care what other people think, but you won't be affected necessarily. And it's a really good place to be. I think being vulnerable is a great way of really knowing that you've kind of got there, because you can be open, you can wear your heart on your sleeve, and nothing is going to change that. You know, because the problem is that if you become vulnerable too quickly before you have all those life skills, then you can be affected adversely. So I think, there's all these kind of great words nowadays with, you should be more vulnerable. It's like, well, yeah, you should, but you need to pick your time, because if you do it soon, then you can get hurt. When you can't get hurt, then, I think you can, then totally you just open up to everyone. It's like that ultimate unconditional love and thought and everything else towards anything and everything, and allowing everyone to come through.
Katie Reeves is saying she bloody loves you, just so you know.
It's so nice. All these lovely things. I feel wonderful.
Take it in, babe. Take it in.
I think the way that I work and operate is definitely around that space, in terms of when you're in a space where you can be vulnerable and you know your own warts and you own them, then when you come into vulnerability with someone, it actually is really freeing, because it opens up a lot of options of stuff that you didn't know about yourself or about a project or whatever.
Yeah.
And if you're happy to be in a place where you can actually go, poke holes at this so we can improve it.
Yeah.
Like, that's a really healthy place to be at.
Yeah.
Versus, don't you dare poke holes at me because I will crumble. You're just not ready for that opportunity yet.
No, because it's about, well, like I said, it's about honesty, and it's about being authentic, and allowing constructive criticism, and not seeing it as, a personal attack, because a lot of the time it's not. And you don't have to take it. I think you also need to have that strength of character where you don't necessarily have to, accept what's said, but you have to be open to allow it in, for sure.
I think it's interesting that you're having this chat, because obviously so many people that do enter awards, and as someone who enters awards, regularly, it is quite a vulnerable place to be in, because you have to be willing to.
A lot of people understand that, because people sort of see the end result. Other than the people that enter, they see the end result. They see all the accolades and the trophies and everything else, but they don't see everything else that's gone through that. When it's sort of, whether you're competing and just doing a haircut on the floor, or whether you're doing a business submission and putting everything in it, you are absolutely putting yourself out there. That's a big deal. You're also making yourself look at yourself, your creative ability, your business, and in that process and in the journey, sometimes you see things that you need to do better. So I often say to people, don't worry too much if it takes a couple of years to kind of get there, because the process of that, especially in business awards, is that it gives you the opportunity to look at your business and give it a complete health check, because when you look at it again, you go, oh my God, look what I've done. Look at those things that we needed to look at. And people do look at it then. So I think, I applaud anybody that puts themselves out there to do that, because you are knowingly allowing yourself to be judged. And business wise is not so bad, because a lot of facts and figures speak for themselves. But when it comes to creative, you're judged on something that is an expression of art in some ways, and that's a tough gig for a lot of people. But you can only sort of, I think, get a positive backlash from that, if you like, because it should be about, it should be about you and your self growth, self growth, and not necessarily what everybody else is sort of saying. I think when it comes to shoots and stuff, you do something that you're proud of. If you happen to win an award, great, that's a bonus. But it's more about, what can I do with this? What can I use this for? Am I going to use this in my merchandising and in my marketing and, training my staff, all that stuff? And then, let's also, sometimes people shoot differently for that to compare to awards, but nowadays people can't afford to just spend a fortune and just have something beautiful for a trophy. You've got to get something out of it. So I think that, it places people in an spot. I think that, I applaud everybody. I wish I could give them all awards. They do so well. They really do.
All right. 2 minutes left. Last question.
Okay.
Happiness is?
I feel like, do you remember that cartoon with the two little fat people where love is? Have you seen that, or is it English? No, it's an English thing. Don't worry.
Little D, little dumb.
Doreen, you should Google it. You'd love it. It's always these little love is and happiness is, and they just have beautiful little
They're like little sticky figure things.
They're like, yeah,
I'll look this up.
line things. For me, look, it's a feeling of joy. It's you know, it's when you're content. It's when life is good. It's all about that positivity. There's things that make me happy. There's things that make me smile. I think, you know, a lot of the stuff that we talked about earlier with gratitude and pride and all those kind of things as well. Happiness for me now is, I mean, I always, one of my mottos that I sign off on everything is to choose happiness always. I think if you have a choice, go with the happiness one.
Yeah.
Why would you go with anything else if you can possibly help it? So, you know, for me, I feel, as I said, grateful. I feel blessed. If I sit outside, I live on acreage, so if I sit outside and look at the land, that makes me happy. If I look at my new little grandson's face, that makes me happy. Happiness for me is not just pride and gratitude of what I've done, but also especially my family. So my sons and my daughter, that's paramount. That's what it's all for. You know, it's making sure that they will all be okay once I'm sort of gone. And that doesn't necessarily mean financially. That also means teaching them how to be happy. And, you know, to me, that's probably one of the most important things in the world, just to be happy.
Aww. That was great. I love the choice.
It's good.
Babes, we're so sorry we have to cut it, but we're trying so hard to keep this just under the hour.
Look, because I think that, you know, when you asked me to do it, which I was absolutely honoured by, I always get surprised when these things happen. It's, you know, everybody tells their story a lot on different platforms, but I think to actually talk about, especially at this time of our lives, to talk about normal stuff and emotional stuff and you know, things where we can relate to each other, I think is a really you're doing really cool.
Awesome.
Thank you so much. And I know I'm going to start blogging the rest of the questions because there's so many things we don't answer. Thank you so much for your time and sharing your journey with us. Super appreciate it. And if anyone has any questions, please do just put them under the post and we can ask Linda as well.
Yeah. See you next week, team. Thank you, Linda. Appreciate it.
Bye.
Thanks,
Thanks, guys.
Bye.